When performing the push-up, you want to have the shoulder blades pulled down toward the hip and the upper arm, forming roughly a 45-degree angle with the torso. A common mistake is to have the shoulder blades flare up toward the ears and have the upper arm form a much more extreme angle with the torso by flaring the elbows out, placing excessive pressure on the shoulder, wrist, and elbow. We really want to think of the push-up as a moving plank. When viewed from the side, during the movement, the orientation of the ankle, the knee, the hip, and the shoulder should not change. The elbow should be directly over the wrist at the start position. From here, the shoulder will rotate into extension as indicated by the arrow. In the bottom position, we should be in the same plank that we started out from. The elbow will still be over the wrist, and the shoulder will now reverse the original motion and go into flexion, driving the chest off of the floor, keeping the upper back and the abs engaged. This view from the side shows the wrist too far ahead of the elbow and the shoulder blades shrugged up towards the ears. A push-up from this position will place excessive stress on the shoulder, the wrist, and the elbow, and lead to poor force output. The three following examples show attempts to perform the push-up without lifting any weight. It is important to understand that the center of mass, circled in yellow, is the portion of the weight that is actually being lifted, and therefore, moving this is necessary in order to perform work. Here we see the hip moves very little, and the head drops independently of the hip joint. The hip joint, furthermore, becomes broken, removing the plank position from the push-up. Here we will see that the chest is lifted independently of the hip. This forces the lower back into a dangerous extension and allows the center of mass to be lifted with the aid of the hip flexors and the abdominals, taking the work off of the arms. This can be due to either poor upper body or abdominal strength, as the abs are failing to maintain the structural integrity of the spine under load. And here we simply see extremely short ranges of motion. A common mistake when performing the push-up from the knees is to not be on top of the quads, maintaining the plank shown here, but to instead, similar to the last clip, attempt to avoid moving the center of mass. To recap, when performing the push-up, do not flare the elbows excessively. Let them form a 45-degree angle with the torso. Keep the upper back engaged. Keep your plank position and drive through the wrist.